Teresa? Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me?
Hey, Grace.
So you're the UNNC, right?
Yes.
Terrific.
Did you get the notice that it's going live?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, excellent. Now let's see if I can make you the host.
I chose to be a co-host.
Oh, you did? How did you choose that?
I don't know. It asked, did you want to be?
Okay.
And so I said yes.
Okay, great. Then that means that you should, I know your agenda says that Noriel may be doing a presentation, so you will be able to give him
right
presentation sharing.
Yes.
I'm just trying to see where, oh, yes. Let me just see if I can, I'm going to rename myself or just, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, well, yay, it's working.
It is.
Yeah. I will.
You don't know how happy I was to get your text and phone call. Because I was ready to call Laura.
Oh, well, besides me, Laura's the other person who's very good at it. She would have been able, I'm not sure what her plans were for tonight, but she certainly would have been able to go in, log in, and get the meeting started. So
exactly. And that was just like, I'm like, ah.
I always try just for every
and
meeting.
I appreciate that, Teresa.
Just to see, to make sure everybody's streaming okay and everything is going fine. But actually, I'm going to, now, can you admit Lizzie?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you can do everything. So,
right.
I was thinking about in the future bringing up for a discussion to have like a technology committee or some ad hoc that meets quarterly just to kind of go over the technological stuff. So, you know, I just kind of took it on, but maybe it needs to be more formalized and somebody else can handle that.
Sure. You know, over the weekend, I was at a LAPD substation mobile gathering in Harvard Heights. And I think I got 2 or 3 more people interested in applying for UNNC's board.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but I also am like going, I would like Jefferson, Arlington Heights, as well as just 3 more from
Harvard Heights.
Harvard Heights.
Yeah.
So. Lizzie, did you hear that? More people interested.
Yes. Yes, that's great news. Thank you so much for doing that. By the way, I have the postcards ready. So if you need
Sounds
some to give away, Teresa, you too, I can drop them off.
Okay, well, I don't know just yet who I'd be handing them out to, but thank you. And also thank you, Lizzie, for coming to the meeting on Wednesday.
Oh, sure. Yes, I mean, we really need to spread the word. So the last time I tried to attend many neighborhood meetings, February the 6th.
Okay, I was thinking so February 3rd. Good, February 6th. Okay.
February 6th, yes.
Lizzie, feel free to drop 10 in my mailbox.
Okay.
It's in the middle of the gate, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll find it.
Okay. It's a big, huge mailbox.
Great.
So it won't get wet.
Exactly. I was going to say, I'll try to get there when it's dry.
Right.
So Dennis is having a good time in Jamaica, huh?
Yeah. His wife is originally from Jamaica, so.
Wow.
I know. I'm like thinking, I've never been to Jamaica.
Nope.
I haven't either. Dolores just came back from a 3-week cruise to Hawaii.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes. She just came back, I think 2 or 3 days ago. She was already missing it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Hi, Mr. Garcia.
Hello.
Nice to have you on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me.
What part of UNNC do you live in?
I live in Jefferson Park.
Got it.
Oh, we're neighbors.
Oh, great.
My name is Lizzie. I also live in Jefferson Park.
Oh, great.
I live east of Arlington, closer to Western.
Yeah, I live on 12th and Jefferson, so closer to Crenshaw.
Oh, all right. All right. Sounds good.
I'm gonna step away, Grace, but I will be
Sure.
checking in.
Terrific.
And if
Thanks.
anything, if I don't hear you, please text me.
Got it.
Okay.
I happen to live in Arlington Heights. I actually live right next door to the brand new senior affordable housing complex on Washington and Gramercy, Wilton.
Very nice.
So what brought you out? How'd you hear about our meeting today?
I heard about it like on Nextdoor or something. This is my first time. I just moved into the neighborhood, so I'm trying to figure out how everything works.
Definitely.
Trying to get involved.
How long have you lived in Los Angeles?
Since 2007.
Okay.
So I've been like on the west side, like Culver City, Palms area.
Mm.
And then, yeah, moved to downtown, and then I'm here.
And where were you before 2007?
Palmdale. I was moved down for college. Yeah.
That's far.
Must have been hot.
Hot and cold. Nothing in between.
Yeah.
I'm waiting just another minute or two because we have a presenter tonight, and he should be joining us. So if not, I've got this great slides presentation that he made that I should not be covering, but you know, we can take a look.
Mm.
So let me just give it another minute or two, and then I will start. Did you get to see the agenda, Mr. Garcia?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Okay, good. Lizzie, you saw the agenda, right?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Oh, look, and here he is. Fantastic.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting, and I have to read a few comments before we start our meeting. So thank you for joining us for tonight's UNNC Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Committee. I'm so glad that I see Nuriel. We were waiting for you. He has a great presentation to share with us. And Mr. Garcia is joining us for the very first time. He lives in Jefferson Park, and he wants to get to know the neighborhood better. Okay, so here's to public comments for the start of the meeting. As is usual for UNNC meetings, stakeholders are invited to participate. However, please do mute yourself throughout the meeting, whether you are joining the meeting by internet or telephone. When an individual wishes to address the group, please raise your hand and we will allow public comments or your questions to be made when it is an appropriate time. All other rules to public comments still apply. And here we go. The agenda states determination to continue to hold meetings virtually. The Board of Neighborhood Council Commissioners, BONC, and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, with guidance from the Los Angeles City Attorney, have established that BONC has the authority to adopt AB 361 findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E1, B, and C on behalf of the city's neighborhood councils, and to determine that due to COVID-19 state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. This meeting is being conducted virtually pursuant to that directive. And as you all know, we are currently live on YouTube as well. So if we are good with call to order and review of agenda, I would ask that someone move to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. It's Lizzie.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nuriel. And if we can all just raise our hand, either way, computer or terrific too. I know Lizzie is. Thank you, 3. Okay, Mr. Garcia, is there anything you'd like to add? You're allowed to vote.
I'm a voter. That's great to know. I'll just raise my hand. I'm raising
Hey,
it.
thank you. Okay. Well, so we were saying our hellos. Nuriel, if you just want to share with them where you live in UNNC area.
Yeah, so I am in Harvard Heights, right near like Venice and Westmoreland.
And Mr. Garcia, you're going to get to see exactly where that is tonight in our map because Nuriel has a wonderful presentation. We don't seem to have general public comments, do we? Lizzie, do you have a general public comment that you'd like to make?
Yes, I do have a couple. So the first one is, of course, to inform our neighbors, such as Mr. Garcia, about the upcoming UNNC elections, which will be held on April the 22nd. Right now, we are recruiting candidates. So candidate filing is open until February the 6th. You may apply with the city clerk's office, and any information you may contact UNNC. You may visit our website unnc.org or email us at elections@unnc.org. Also, to inform our neighbors about the Big Sunday event on January the 16th from 10 to 1 p.m. This is an opportunity to donate new clothes and also volunteer at this event, which will be held at the 24th Street Elementary School. And then, January 16th, which is Martin Luther King Service Day. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. I saw that John was joining us, except the message says he's still joining, so maybe he's having a hiccup with internet. Any other general comments to share in tonight's meeting? Actually, I'll share that over the weekend in Harvard Heights on Sunday mid-morning, there was a LAPD mobile substation that came out and shared some ways in which neighbors can take care of one another and decrease the number of burglaries that have been occurring. And because of the neighborhood participation, they went from having quite a few to almost 0 because of the vigilance of the neighbors. So I thought I'd just share that with this group because I would think you'd be interested. Okay. Terrific. John has now joined us. Hello, John. Okay, he's now connecting to audio. And once he's connected, Nuriel, I'm going to give you the platform. Oh, and to do that, I should make you a co-host. Hi, John. Can you hear us?
Yes. Had some trouble logging in.
Yes, that's what I gathered because my panel says exactly. So, we're on item number 5, unless you'd like to make some general public comments. How about we'll start with John. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for tonight.
Thank you.
How'd you hear about us?
I'm doing some research on having meetings with our local police officers, SLOs, and I found a meeting in Hollywood that's in a week or 2. And then that reminded me that it used to be a Jefferson Park public safety meeting back in the day. So, how you get on the Google and you start clicking here and there, and I just found this meeting.
Terrific.
And I said, I think this is the Jefferson Park Safety Committee reconstituted.
It is, and Jefferson Park is part of United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council, and you're going to get to know a lot more about UNNC and the areas that we cover, because we have for tonight's presentation, agenda item number 5, the UNNC Social and Demographic Data Summary by none other than Nuriel, who's going to give us all the wonderful information. He's actually a doctor who clearly has enough time to do a lot of community service, and we're grateful for his joining us. Lizzie, yes, you have a question, comment before we start?
Yes, very quickly to John. So the West Adams Neighborhood Association, they also hold a public safety meeting. And because we share the same SLO, in recent months, they have been including us in Jefferson Park as well. So if you would please leave your information in the chat, I can email you that, I can refer you to that meeting.
Lizzie, this is John from the Slow Streets.
Oh, John, nice.
I'm not ready for
talk
prime
to
time.
you.
That's why there's a blank screen.
I see. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Thank you, John. Take care.
Good to see your name.
All right.
Okay, Nuriel, take it
right.
away.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Can we just review what she said, that the West Adams Neighborhood Association, we are now sharing an SLO?
Yes, I will email you the details. No problem.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lizzie.
Sure, sure.
Okay, sorry.
No, all good. Yeah, so my name is Nuriel. I'm one of the neighborhood council members, and I think by way of explanation too, the reason I'm presenting this is it's my first year on the neighborhood council, and something I felt like was important to me was to better understand the area. I'm also relatively new to the area itself, so to really get a sense of like, okay, who are our constituents that we're representing. And I think in this committee too, I think it was well stated on the agenda, like thinking about preparedness and safety. We have to know who's here to know what we're doing. So I went ahead and just like did a little bit of like more research on this area, and I used a particular tool to do that I think is really powerful. So this is called the Neighborhood Data for Social Change map. You can find it at this URL, which I'll pop into the chat at the end. But basically, it's a really powerful data set. And USC, and this is out of the Price School, they basically overlaid multiple different databases from all sorts of different sources, from federal, state, local, private surveys, to give you a really powerful tool that allows you to look at given neighborhoods on a really pretty granular level with a pretty high level of understanding of who's there, depending on how you cut it. So a point that's important as we think about our neighborhoods, the data source in Neighborhoods Data for Social Change uses neighborhoods as defined by the LA Times. The LA Times defines LA as 272 neighborhoods in LA County. The neighborhood councils of LA, city of LA, there's 99 of them. So there's a little bit of a different overlay. And the way that UNNC is represented in the LA Times is basically these 3 neighborhoods: Arlington Heights, Harvard Heights, and Jefferson Park. And just the only difference that I could find between the two is the LA Times will include areas between Pico and Olympic as part of these neighborhoods, whereas our neighborhood councils cut off at Pico. Otherwise, actually, it's almost exactly the same map. And so as I'm giving you guys this data, when we think about our United Neighborhoods footprint, what I'm sharing with you guys is pretty darn close. There's probably a little bit more of an urban tilt as we go farther north that'll be included here. But overall, I think it's still pretty representative. And the footprint of Jefferson Park is pretty identical. So I started first by thinking about demographics, like how many kids are in this area. So it'll tell you the population under 18. And in our area, the 3 neighborhoods are about the same. It's about 20%, which is pretty good. We're a little bit below the county average. We're a little bit, you'll see a little bit more middle age than the county average, but overall, pretty much about the same, 20% kids. And likewise, the flip side, population over 65, we're a little bit older. I don't know, probably about the same. LA County average is about 14%, and probably across our 3 neighborhoods, we're in that as well. So we're pretty similar overall from an age basis. You'll see there's a little bit of a younger trend in Harvard Heights relative to the other two communities. Just as to prepare you for all the maps you'll see, these colors are not consistent between maps. I do not know the scheme that the social change data uses to come up with them. They're true relative to each other, but not between categories. Families with children, it's about 27%, about like the county average. But as we think about it, 1 in 4 families in our area have kids at home. And I thought this was really interesting. So immigrant population, which is defined in this data set as people who are born outside the United States, whether they're citizens or not, over 50% in Harvard Heights, over 45% Arlington Heights, and about 36% Jefferson Park. So this is actually well above the county average, particularly in Harvard Heights, in our region. They break that down further. So this is not just immigrant population, but of all folks who identify as Asian. So this has, a really interesting, you'll see in the next few slides where we share race and ethnicity data, you see, sort of historic effects of separating the community with the 10 freeway, of redlining, and another sort of communities that get built. But 21% of Harvard Heights and Arlington Heights identify as Asian, 4% of Jefferson Park. So a really strong split, across the 10 there. And some of those obviously above the county, some of those below. See a similar split here when we talk about the Black population. So, Jefferson Park, historically, Black neighborhood, retains, about 30% of folks there identify as Black, whereas, you go north of the 10, and now we're talking just 10, 15, and Harvard Heights, 7% of residents, close to the county average there. But again, these splits between just these 3 neighborhoods that otherwise we probably think of as fairly similar. Hispanic Latino population, all above the LA County average, particularly in Harvard Heights. And again, in line with that immigrant community, we know here in Harvard Heights, we have a lot of folks coming in from Mexico, Central America in particular, in this area that make up this population that would identify as Hispanic, Latino, Latina. White population is interesting. Well below the county average. So just 5-6% of our area would identify as white, which also surprised me as well. I thought this was interesting that they had this kind of level of granularity in the data, but language is spoken at home. So close to 20% of families in the Arlington Harvard Heights are speaking Korean at home as a primary language. Whereas in Jefferson Park, that's not even 2%, and that's in line with the county average. So I think really especially appreciating the Korean community that's in our neighborhood council here and what a significant part of the population it is in at least 2 out of the 3 of the major areas we represent. Spanish spoken at home, you'll see is over 50% across our entire neighborhood council. So when we talk about the groups that we're representing, and particularly who's on our neighborhood council, 50% of the folks we represent are primarily seeking Spanish within the home. And so when we think about emergency preparedness and we think about the things we need to do in communicating to our community, recognizing that the primary language for more than half of the people in our community is going to be Spanish, and actually it's probably a minority is going to be English, especially when you consider how many families are speaking Korean at home at least too. And here you go with English. So in Harvard Heights, just 20% of households are speaking English at home. So I felt like that, to me, again, not knowing much about this community moving here, I was surprised by just how diverse we really are. It was really great. This is a nice piece of data. They call this linguistic isolation. So this is households where no one over the age of 14 speaks English. So this is somewhere where, not only is the primary language spoken at home something else, but actually there's not proficient English speakers who are adults. And you really see some strong differences here. In Harvard Heights, it's almost 40% of households where actually there's nobody above the age of 14 speaking English well. And in Jefferson Park, that's 13. So again, as we talk about communicating with our neighborhood and bringing events together, who are we reaching? How are we reaching them? And are we making sure we're doing it in a way that's, linguistically sensitive and accessible? There's some additional stuff other than just demographics. So there's education data. So folks with less than high school level education, it's much higher actually in our neighborhood council region than in the rest of the county. The rest of the county is probably 1 in 5, whereas in our area, it's probably more like 1 in 4. And in Harvard Heights, 1 in 3 folks with less than a high school education. And on the flip side, bachelor degree or higher, again, below the county average, where it's 1 in 3. In our area, it's probably more like 1 in 4 with a bachelor's degree or higher. So getting to employment and income level. So there's a marker they call extremely low income. So these are people making a household that is making less than 30% of the median family income for LA metro area, which is 90,000. So we're talking about families that are making less than $30,000 a year for the whole household. And what we're seeing is that in Harvard Heights, it's almost 40% of households. Jefferson Park, it's 33% almost. In Arlington Heights, it's 30%. That's a tremendous burden for a lot of people living in our area. And in LA County, the average is just 20%. So we really do represent a footprint of people who are probably struggling significantly financially. And the flip side, when we talk about people above middle income, so this is households that have more than 100% of median, basically more than $90,000 a year for the household. It's a really strong minority. In our area, it's probably around an average of 15%. Whereas in LA County, on average, it's gonna be about 35%. Other ways of looking at that data for students on free and reduced price lunch, this to me was particularly heartbreaking, because I think what this shows to me is those families that are living at extremely low income are the ones who have kids. And so in our area, we're talking 90% of kids are on free and reduced price lunch at school. And so it really gives us a sense too, where are the families that are of low income? What are they supporting? So these are households with less than $30,000 a year who are also supporting multiple children. Related, potentially somewhat, is the uninsurance rate. So the LA County average is 9%. The California state average is much lower than that too. But in our area, we have a pretty high level of uninsurance. And when we talk about the major drivers of being uninsured in America today, being undocumented is one of the main ones, and then not being able to afford it essentially are the next 2 and 3 options. So we're really talking about folks who are of low income, and many of whom are immigrants. It explains why we have such a high uninsurance rate. But when we talk about public safety, public health in our area, these are things for us to think about is, what is the utility of doing public health drives, blood pressure screenings, other things like that for a community that might not have access to health insurance, and particularly for their kids who might not have access to health insurance. There's potentially a lot of good we could be doing there. This information, so the home ownership rate, and on the next slide, the renters rate, I think are really illuminating. So we talk about our area, probably about, on average, less than 20% of people are homeowners who live in the United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council area. That's well below the county average. It's higher in Jefferson Park than elsewhere. And the rentership rate is really high. So whereas LA County is about 50% overall in terms of renters, in our area, it's probably closer to 75 to 80% of people are renters. And so I think as we're thinking again about the services we provide, the people we're reaching out to, I think in terms of our planning, land use, housing committees, thinking about new developments, really thinking about serving renters and making sure that they're having an experience here where the rents are fair, that the housing is affordable, it's accessible in this area too. Severe rent burden is defined as people who pay more than 50% of their income to rent utilities. It's about 30% for people in our area. I think relative to the low income, I think this is showing the effects that I think certain rent control policies probably have in our area in terms of keeping rent moderately affordable for people, but this is still a pretty high percentage of folks that are paying 50% of their income to rent utilities. I thought of this one as actually really interesting, again, of how we communicate with people. No internet access. And actually, this includes mobile devices. This is truly no internet access. Almost 30% of households in Harvard Heights and 23% of households in Jefferson Park and Arlington Heights. And so when we talk about, advertising our events through social media primarily, or through the internet, or through Nextdoor, et cetera, we're not reaching a whole lot of folks. And it's, it's obviously all of the other methods of reaching out to people are so much more work intensive, but I was really shocked by the percentage of folks with no internet access. And it's almost double in Harvard Heights, the percentage of of all of LA County. Some facts on transportation in this area: households without a vehicle double or close to 3 times what's in the rest of the city. So 8% across LA County, but 16 to 20% in our area of households that don't have a vehicle. And of those that commute to work by public transit, biking, or walking, again, much, much higher than LA County average. So when we talk about, we're working with our city council folks and trying to get metro access, bus stop access, safe sidewalks and all that stuff in our area, it's really a priority, maybe more than in other places too, given what a percentage of our folks are walking, biking around, or trying to get to public transportation. So that's the data I was able to cull from this database that I found really interesting. I'm curious for folks, I'm relatively new to the area, so everything was surprising me as I've explored less of this area and gotten to know it less well. This is helpful for me, but I'm curious for folks what impressions you have seeing this data, and what takeaways you guys have as it relates to our work as a neighborhood council and as a committee.
Nuriel, thank you so much for this incredibly informative presentation. I loved seeing these numbers, and like you said, there are ways in which we can be helpful to our neighbors, and the lack of health insurance, which is sort of mandatory at this point, maybe there's something we can do to increase or decrease the number of people who do not have health insurance. So that's something I'll bring up to the executive committee. And I have a question for you before anyone else who has a question, raise your hand. What is the number of people living in the 3 different areas? The actual numbers?
Yeah, I can actually pull that up if you give me a minute. Yeah.
Sure. That'd be great. John, Mr. Garcia, Lizzie, anyone have any questions for Nuriel and his wonderful presentation?
I can't find the raise hand function. I'm sorry. I'm a newbie
Okay,
here.
go ahead, John.
I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. This is the public safety meeting, correct?
It is the public safety and emergency preparedness. We are just being thorough and knowing our neighborhood, and that's how we got this presentation tonight.
Are there any senior lead officers?
Not in today's call.
Okay.
We will tell you that Harvard Heights over the weekend had the LAPD mobile substation go out and share. And before you came on, I was sharing with Mr. Garcia how we have been able to decrease the crime, the robberies that were just popping up left and right, and how by neighbors banding together, they've brought it down to 0 in the last 6 months, which is a huge improvement.
Okay, I just, my computer wasn't cooperating. I'm sorry I missed that. That's why I wanted.
No worries.
I'm sure I'm going to take the information back to our block club for our in February meeting. So I just want to have information to share.
Sure, and I can talk to you offline as well. So
I'm sorry, I can't click over to the agenda. Could I please have your name?
Sure, I'm Grace Yu, John.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. I thought so. I just want to make sure.
No worries.
And you ran for city council, correct?
I did.
Okay, I think I met you. So nice to meet you again.
Thanks, John.
Thank
Nuriel, you.
Yes, I popped it in the chat. So the total population is 63,000. And again, ours is going to be a little lower because that's going to include that little sliver between Pico and Olympic. And the highest chunk is in Jefferson Park with 24,000.
And for the folks on this call, that's a huge number because CD10 only has 260,000 not even registered voters. The number of people, the population in CD10 is 260,000. And the fact that we have 60,000 of that, we're, close to 25%. So,
yes, wow.
It is.
Yeah, well, just wanted to say, Nuriel, what a great presentation. So much information in there, eye-opening. Personally, we pride ourselves about our diversity, but now I'm thinking it's it's probably more from a historical perspective. I think right now that diversity has to be renegotiated, the concept, and certainly how we reach out to how we can be more inclusive in our reaching out to our neighbors and stakeholders. I mean, it's loud and clear that we're just my focus is always social media because it's the easiest and quickest way to get the message out. But obviously always canvassing, having in-person events, that is usually really the most effective way to do it. But certainly, yes, absolutely. This information is so wonderful. I want to share it forward, and I think the entire board needs to see it. Maybe at a governing board meeting, maybe it can be included, maybe before the meeting. I think it's very valuable. Great contribution, Nuriel. Yes.
Thanks, Lizzie. Yeah, I'm happy to share it more widely. I think for me, it's very instructive. And yeah, I think to your point about social media, it's like it hits people reliably who are engaged, and we know them, and it's easy too, and it's good. And I think I see this, I'm like, oh boy, like I guess it's not enough. We have to be doing more. And I don't necessarily know where to start either, but I think by sharing it with folks, it gives us like a place to have a conversation about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Muriel, like I expected and am not disappointed. Great presentation. Thank you. And I'll be sharing this with the executive committee, and I'm sure you're going to get further requests.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace.
Now we're going to go to our fentanyl crisis in our community. I know you brought that up at the tail end, Lizzie. Is there anything you wanted to share before I made some comments?
Just that I have been, this came about because I went back to teaching full time for the LAUSD since October. And it just hit me reading the news about students overdosing, some of them dying and not having the opportunity to, for Narcan to be more available to prevent, such fatalities. And I just wonder, because I have two stories to share. My mom, she had the last 7 years of her life, she went through many medical challenges, many stays at the hospital. She was once at the hospital. I was staying with her. I was her primary caregiver for all those 7 years. So if she landed in the hospital, I would be there and advocating for her, staying, sleeping there. And one day this time she was, it was a internal bleeding, extremely painful. She had high tolerance for pain, but she didn't, at the time, it was just excruciating. So she was on pain medication. And at some point, the nurse overlapped the two dosages of whatever medication, and she overdosed. So at the time, I didn't know, I couldn't really realize that she could have really died. But we were there with her. She became not responsive, and then the charge nurse decided to administer Narcan, and like boom, she immediately woke up. And the first thing, she looked at me and she said, "Why are you crying?" She thought, I mean, it was like it never happened. And then when I was myself not hospitalized, but I was given very strong very, very strong pain medication. And they just gave me Narcan. I have it with me. I never took that pain medication because I don't like that. It was just prescribed to me along with a Narcan. So I just I just think it's something, if it's something that I have it accessible for me, it lasts a long time. I think they gave me in 2021. It won't expire until 2024. This is something that is very readily available. And I think we should really reach out to the community and maybe combat that stigma associated with using drugs and just being practical about saving lives. Also connected to the UNNC, I was just checking with a former board member who had a CIS, I believe, supporting the use of Narcan. But I was just texting with her a few minutes ago. She believes that document was never submitted. So she is going to look and check. If that CIS was never submitted, then we already have one from which we could work, maybe resubmit it. But also I was thinking maybe we could do a presentation similar to the coyotes and the trees, where, before the governing board meeting, there is a short presentation, maybe an expert can come, maybe share a video of training. I think it's something that we could do, and it could be a good contribution to the community. And that's all.
So thank you, Lizzie. What I'll do is I'll follow up and find out if the CIS has been signed or not. I'll get back to everybody on this.
Sure, thank you.
And, we need to figure out what we want to do, what project we as a group would like to really push forward in our community, whether it's on the public safety or on the emergency planning, especially with the storms coming down. I think most of our areas, or correct me if I'm wrong, because your neighborhood is now overflowing with water on the streets. I think we're okay. I haven't heard anything, but I wouldn't say that I know every single street in our UNNC footprint. So those are the things that we should be doing. And I'm glad that we're having this storm because we need the water, but it's also a good way and reminder that we really do need to be prepared for an emergency. And that's part of how we kicked off the public safety and emergency planning, because truthfully, Dennis and I, the co-chairs, we were more concerned on the emergency preparedness portion, but because there's a public safety committee that's in every neighborhood council, we just had to combine the two, because public safety had sort of said, we're going to take a rest for a couple of years. So that's sort of the background of the restart of the Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Committee. So is there any old business that anyone would like to discuss? New business? Well, then I say we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you next month, February. That will be February. Luckily, it won't be February 14th. It is going to be February 13th. Yes, it will be February 13th at 7:30. So thank you for joining us today. And it was nice to have you join us, Mr. Garcia and John.
Thank you.
Bye, folks.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Take